if you can't understand those differences because you've never experienced it, I'm trying to explain to you um, in concrete ways um, why an autistic would respond the way they do based on their neurology and or the biochemistry, the chemicals that feed the brain, and maybe they're off kilter that day. They didn't get enough sleep, or they have medical issues, or all those co-occurring conditions that can influence how you feel and therefore how you respond. So I'm giving you insight as much as possible so that you could always double check your initial, oh, I think that's what they responded this way because, which is usually based on reasoning the way you would do it.
Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals.
All right, Sue. So next month is Autism Acceptance Month in April, and we are excited to be launching our course, Understanding Autistic Strengths and Differences. It's a 4.5 hour course for professionals. You'll get a certificate of completion. But today we really want to talk about why does understanding autism matter? And I know some people might be like, well, duh, because we need to understand, how they're thinking and who they are. But it really goes so much deeper because, I'm a neuro-affirming therapist. I've been working with you. I think I understand, and I think I'm on the right direction for some of my clients' goals. But when I get that like pit in my stomach of like, ooh, I don't think I am going in the right direction, I usually shoot you an email and I say, hey, I need some help. And I think I know the answer, but then you take me in a whole different direction. So anyone else out there that thinks, you're neuroaffirming, you think you're headed in the right direction, which you are, being neuroaffirming is the right direction, but why does it matter that therapists, parents, why does it matter that we understand autism?
Simply because the autistic brain and non-autistic brain work differently. Now, I could say that for anything. I mean, the ADHD brain works differently than the non-ADHD brain as well. Our brains work differently. A lot of it has to do with our genetics, our culture, our experiences. All these things shape the way our brain works and how, therefore, we respond um, uh, to our environment. So you can't really know another person if you don't start asking those questions about them to try to see their perspective, which in a neurotypical world, this is why social communication is so vitally important. But social communication is the cornerstone that autistics seem to struggle with because um, and I don't know how familiar you are with the double empathy theory, but
Yes.
basically it's when you put two neurotypicals together, their social communication is on target. When you put two autistics together, their communication is on target because they can relate to each other and how each person thinks. It's like a non-Chinese person going into Chinatown and expecting to understand their culture and why they do and eat and think the way they do. You can't know what you've never experienced.
Mhm.
So this is what the neuro-strength-based approach framework for autism is designed to do. is to help you get inside the autistic brain based on what research has shown are the differences in the way the autistic processes information and therefore responds based on what we know and don't know and how our brain works or doesn't work like everyone else. But if you can't understand those differences because you've never experienced it, I'm trying to explain to you um, in concrete ways why an autistic would respond the way they do based on their neurology and or the biochemistry, the chemicals that feed the brain, and maybe they're off kilter that day. They didn't get enough sleep, or they have medical issues, or all those co-occurring conditions that can influence how you feel and therefore how you respond. So I'm giving you insight as much as possible so that you could always double check your initial, oh, I think that's what they responded this way because, which is usually based on reasoning the way you would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're either the support you're trying to give them or the strategy you're trying to use isn't working, it may need to go back to the original premise of why are they responding that way? Maybe my interpretation is not on target. So therefore, the strategies and supports I'm providing aren't working. And then you can go back to the framework that I've developed, and I've tried to put it in as much of a nutshell as possible to say, here are the autistic strengths, the way the brain works consistently. Here are some of the inconsistencies in the way the brain works that would explain the way they respond to things. So it's an ongoing process. You're always going to need to go back to the training modules I've created to help you reassess. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Might explain why they responded that way. And if that's the case, then these strategies and supports are more likely to work more effectively.
Yes. It's kind of like, you know how you watch a movie and then if you watch it again, you see a scene that you're like, wait a second, I don't remember that scene. I feel like that's how it is because I do, there's certain pieces that stick in my mind. But, you know, we recently just had a conversation where you reminded me how important it is to teach time to our kids. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot that one. So that's why we give lifetime access because this is definitely something where you kind of have to go back and rewatch, maybe pick out something you didn't keep in your mind or your memory previously. And that is powerful to just kind of rewatch it and listen again. So on the flip side, what happens when we don't understand? And what changes when we do? I know for me, the biggest thing that changed when I did understand is for sure seeing my clients through the strength lens, which just feels so much better. But from the autistic perspective, what happens when us therapists don't understand what we're observing?
It's a human need to feel accepted and understood. And when you are misjudging an autistic, i.e., judging them from your perspective, they don't feel understood and certainly don't feel accepted for who they are because it's clear you're wanting them to be more like them. And we don't know how to be other than who we are and know ourselves to be. We perceive ourselves as having strengths in area that other people think, oh, that's to excess. That goes beyond a strength. You know, they think they're a superhero or something, and it gets dismissed. So no, you're not allowing us to build on our strengths. You're tapping into no. It's like the math teacher in your class of geometry and you didn't get it, and I don't see the whole purpose to it, but I'm being forced to learn it because I have to pass this class. But you promptly forget it. It's useless information. Well, if that's the approach that you're taking to an autistic, is to try to help them by teaching them how you do things, which helps you fit in, um, but it doesn't work for us. So that's a waste of my time. I may do it just to please you, but I'm never going to use it. Or if I use it, I'm going to use it wrongly. And there I'm going to say, oh, why did I ever listen to her? This was garbage.
Mhm.
So it really is important that if you want to truly help and support an individual, you have to look at it from their perspective and help them with what they want to accomplish, because then it's going to be meaningful and they're going to thank you for it. And they're going to care about you.
Mhm.
That's the social connectedness that we're finding, that it wasn't the primary goal when we started off, but that's the consistent thing that I found as a therapist over all the years. And the therapists that are trying this framework have found as the first initial benefit is that the person feels heard and understood. And therefore, now they're anxious to work with you and not, oh, do I have to?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yes, this is why it's so vitally important to be able to look at it from the other person's perspective.
Yes, absolutely. I see that kids get excited that, we're there because they're like, "Oh, you get me, you understand me." And it isn't "Oh, I have to do this today." And it kind of goes both ways. We get excited about,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, what are we gonna explore today?" Especially our kids that are curious. So definitely a shift, but a needed shift. Because I know on the flip side too, you said some individuals, they'll please you and follow, but on the other side, some individuals will advocate for themselves through behavior and be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, this isn't working for me. I don't see the purpose. I don't. And then unfortunately, they get labeled as, emotionally disabled and all these other labels when really they're just trying to advocate like I don't see how this is connected, how this is going to help me, how you're supporting me. So it really is a win-win. Those people pleasers feel understood, the individuals that advocate for themselves feel understood, and we don't get someone just pleasing and we don't get the behaviors. So definitely a win-win. Awesome. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for asking, Stacy.